Welcome back to Montana this morning, everyone. The time is now 6:43 on this Thursday morning. Hope the week is going by super fast for you as we check out the airport. Well, our top story this Thursday, President Trump heads for the southern border in Texas today as the partial government shutdown over the border wall reaches day 20. On Wednesday, the president and Republican leaders met with top Democrats in what became a contentious round of discussions. An estimated 800,000 federal employees on furlough or working without pay face a missing paycheck tomorrow. While just about 25% of government employees are directly impacted by the shutdown, Montana is apparently feeling one of the biggest burdens. The Washington Post reports Montana is the fourth most affected area in the nation. Washington, D.C. easily takes the top spot, but then Alaska, Maryland, and Montana all round out the areas with the highest impact per capita. In Montana, there are about 14,000 federal employees, and the total number of affected employees is about half of that at 7,200. The top three areas feeling the brunt are agriculture, the Department of the Interior, and Health and Human Services. In all 50 states, the total salaries of those laid off tops $1.4 billion per week. Here in Montana, the president of the state Senate, Scott Sales, says he'd like Montana to give the president and the border wall some support in the form of $8 million of state money. Sales plans to ask the legislature to approve a resolution that will express support for building the border wall. But he also wants to put some of Montana's taxpayer money where its mouth is. The Republican from Bozeman says he'll also sponsor a bill to spend the money as Montana's share of building the $5 billion wall. Sales says the $8 million figure is a fraction of $5 billion, equal to Montana's percentage of the national economy. He says border security is of vital importance to the nation and that his bills are one way to press the issue.
In the legislature a long time, I haven't typically supported a lot of additional government spending, but I think this is of such a critical issue at a critical time. I think it behooves us to take a look at maybe prompting Congress to do what they should do. I've supported this concept. I think a lot of Americans voted for President Trump and Montanans on this one concept alone.
But Democratic House Leader Casey Schreiner of Great Falls told MTM News Wednesday the bills are just political grandstanding and that Democrats are in Helena to work on problems facing the state.
I would love to send a message to the people of Montana as they see their property taxes increase and taxes along the way that we are going to focus on finding ways to reduce those costs than burdens on them than sending money out of state to corporations to build a wall that, again, is not a Montana solution.
Republicans control majorities in the Montana House and Senate, but any spending bill on border wall funding must also get the signature of Democratic Governor Steve Bullock. Here in Billings, parents at Washington Elementary are asking for answers after a third-grade student brought a handgun to school. Superintendent Greg Upham tells us the incident happened late in the school day Tuesday and was brought to their attention by concerned students who told their teacher. Q2 first broke this story on Tuesday night, and some 24 hours later, few new details are being released, but some parents are demanding answers. Q2's Samantha Sullivan has more.
Jennifer Mars, who has a first grader at Washington Elementary, was one of the many parents upset after they say they were not notified of an incident where a third-grade student had a gun in school until hours after the school day was over.
I think they should call the parents immediately and let them know what's going on. I would have liked to have had a phone call.
Mars said that she never actually got a call and that they had no information until her husband received a robo-message around 10 o'clock last night.
That a student had brought a gun to school and that they were on lockdown for part of the day.
Superintendent Upham says he recognizes the frustration of the delay and the worry from parents.
We did our best to communicate with our parents last night when the event occurred, and we had information that we could share with the parents. And it was partly gathering information. It was also part of the robocall system that we have in place, and then also making sure that all parents have updated information with their cells and that type of situation, so that when we do send that information, that it goes to an active person.
Upham says it's also important for parents to safely store their firearms and to talk to their kids about communicating with adults if they see something wrong.
It's so important that parents and caregivers communicate with their parents, with their students and the schools, that it's such a welcoming environment that everyone feels safe to go to an adult at any point in time and share that information. This was a win because of that. So we want to continue to encourage that kind of communication and behavior.
In Billings, Samantha Sullivan, MTN News.
Upham says the district will continue to work to improve its robocall notification system to help get parents information as soon as possible. Now we go to Colstrip, where a 14-year-old boy could face criminal endangerment charges after allegedly firing off a rifle and injuring another teenager. Colstrip Police Chief Corey Hurt says the incident happened December 14th, just before 10:30 p.m. 4 teens between the ages of 14 and 17 were messing around with an AR-15 when the parents were out of town. Hurt says the gun fired, but the boy wasn't aware it was loaded. Another teenager was struck with a bullet in the shoulder. The victim was taken to a local hospital, then transferred to Billings for care. He has since been released. Prosecutors are still determining whether to formally or informally charge the teen. A Billings man is behind bars facing escape charges after police say he kicked out the back of a patrol car, jumped out, and took off running. Prosecutors say 33-year-old Jacob Bradley had several warrants out for his arrest when police arrived to a disturbance at an apartment on 2nd Avenue South on Tuesday night. Officers reportedly found a capped syringe in Bradley's pocket. He was handcuffed and being escorted to a police car when he started to run the first time. Officers grabbed him, put him in the back of the police car, but then heard a loud pop and glass shatter. Police say Bradley kicked out the rear window, jumped out, and took off running again. The officer stopped the car and deployed her taser, striking Bradley in the back. He was then handcuffed a third time and taken to jail. Days after Montana Secretary of State Corey Stapleton announced he's running for governor, an ethics complaint is filed against him. The complaint was filed on January 7th to the Montana Commissioner of Political Practices by the Montana Democratic Party. It says Secretary Stapleton, who is a Republican, violated state law by using his official position with the state of Montana to announce his candidacy. Montana Democrats say on January 2nd, Stapleton sent out an official announcement from a state email account and used a letterhead containing the official Montana state seal. Stapleton, who is 51, is a former state senator and financial advisor from Billings. We reached out to Stapleton's office for comments and will update you when we hear back. Meanwhile, another new piece of legislation is getting bipartisan support in Helena, and if lawmakers agree, it could stop the state from taking your driver's license if you can't afford to pay court fees. Backers of the new bill include both the ACLU of Montana and the Americans for Prosperity. Supporters say each year 10,000 Montanans lose their license because of unpaid court fees. They call the current law a poverty penalty that actually makes it more difficult to pay fines. That's because drivers are unable to drive to and from work without running the risk of a citation. Sponsor of the bill, Republican Casey Knutson of Malta, says as a rural state without much public transportation, a valid driver's license is essential.
Government does not need to be making it any more difficult for people who want to be able to work to get to work, and we certainly shouldn't be using these ever-increasing fines and fees to fund our government.
For drivers whose licenses have already been suspended due to unpaid fees, the bill would also create a way for them to get their license back. In news out of D.C., once again, Montana leaders are fighting for the Little Shell Chippewa tribe. Both Montana U.S. senators and House representative introduced a bill that would grant the tribe federal recognition. The Little Shell Restoration Act passed the House in September of last year, but the bill that needed a unanimous vote was blocked in the Senate by one senator from Utah. The bill would grant the tribe federal recognition and, among many things, would give members access to resources including health care, education, and housing. Little Shell Tribe Chairman Gerald Gray says the tribe has been fighting for this for decades. The first petitions date back as far as the 1930s.
We're a tribe that isn't going to be dependent upon the federal government, so Congress also needs to know that. You know, we've been seeking a lot of different economic avenues that will keep us self-sufficient. So what it's going to do, though, it really just brings dignity to the tribe that's been rightfully wronged for so many years.
Montana Senator Steve Daines weighed in, saying in part the Little Shell tribe has waited far too long and jumped through too many bureaucratic hurdles to secure federal recognition. We can no longer keep kicking the can down the road. Last month, we were close to getting this across the finish line. Democratic Senator John Tester says, quote, "The Little Shell deserves to have their sovereignty recognized. It's time for the federal government to do right by the Little Shell. After years of fighting, I'm hopeful we can get it done this Congress." Montana roads proving to be safer for yet another year. The number of fatal accidents in 2018 were lower than in 2017. 2018 still saw a high number of deaths with 182. However, 2017 had 186. The state had decreases in fatalities on interstates and secondary roadways, but increases on urban, primary, and rural roads. Montana Highway Patrol Sergeant Patrick McLaughlin says that engineering, education, and enforcement have helped bring down those numbers overall.
You know, it impacts folks the most is enforcement. You know, we're out on the roads, we're stopping violators, and the thing, every time we stop one violator, everybody that goes by us is affected by that. They see the lights, they react to it, and so we're not just affecting the one person that we pull over.
The number of fatalities in 2018 is the lowest the state has had in 3 years. In health news, after more than 2 years of construction, the fully renovated ICU at St. Vincent Healthcare is officially open. The $17 million remodel added 4 rooms and more than 3,000 square feet of space, doubling the size of every existing room. While before construction began, St. Vincent employees toured the Denver area hospitals to see what those employees liked and disliked about their facilities. Every room features updated technology, including overhead patient lifts, and each has a window to let in natural light. The renovations mean more space for technology, staff, and patients, but also for family members alongside their loved ones in crisis.
It provides us really a healing environment for the patients and families, and allowing us to have that dedicated family space really means so much to the healing of a patient in a critical situation.